Welcome to the WTF Podcast. My name is Molly Smith, and I am on a mission to equip 1 million people with the tools to recognize when they're in the funk, and more importantly, how to pivot out of it. By tuning in today, you've joined me on this mission. I'm so grateful you are here. Today's guest is Melissa Hunt, a TEDx speaker, entrepreneur, and advocate for heart-led leadership in senior care. She is the founder of the ElderCare Solutions Group and owner of a luxury private care home. She is redefining what excellence and compassion look like in elder care. Melissa's story did not start there, though, friends. Long before she was inspiring audiences from the stage, she found herself in a season of deep depression and loss, one that left her questioning her worth, her community, and her place in the world. What happened next was something she could have never anticipated, and it became the turning point that set her life on an entirely new trajectory. This conversation is about courage, restoration, and the power of rewriting your story when life feels like it's come undone. Please join me in welcoming Melissa Hunt to the WTF Podcast. Hey, Melissa.
Hi, thank you so much, Molly.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you. Okay, so tell me, before we get into some of the incredible work that you're doing right now, you walked through a season of deep depression. Can you take us back to that time in your life? What was going on around you?
Yeah, so I had young children, and my husband and I had embarked on this dream where we each felt this calling towards being in the country, and so we bought a farm. We moved out. I mean, it was a total Green Acres moment, right? We we moved out of the city, and we brought our children, and we just started playing in what it could look like to have this beautiful, restorative, regenerative agriculture life. It was so fun. And in that move, what I really found that I had built there was a small community, and it felt so cozy. I had a little house that I was redoing. I had a small friend group that I was homeschooling with, that I was doing church with, that, we had a gardening club, and we were basically just doing life together. And it felt so fulfilling and wonderful. And, my kids were growing, and they were just natural little wild creatures. It was the life that I wanted and I had dreamed of, and I had built this perfect life for myself. And it felt so fulfilling, I think, a lot because as I was a teenager, I had dealt with depression in the past and some of the stories that I had told myself. So it almost felt like I had created this pinnacle, this mountaintop experience. And it in a very short amount of time, I ended up in a space where that community chose to not be in relationship with me anymore. And it became very clear to me, like the 6 people that I had chosen to talk to, those 6 people that were closest to my heart were the only people that I trusted. This little farm life that I had built, it looked like this web of safety to me,
Right.
and very much because I think it was something that I could control. And all of the rest of the craziness that was happening in the world around me, I had escaped from it. It felt really safe. But then all of a sudden, here I was with nothing and nobody, and feeling like I just yet again was this disposable person. Like people used me for what they wanted me for and then tossed me aside. And then I didn't have anybody that I could trust. I didn't know who to turn to, and nothing felt safe anymore. I didn't trust that I was valuable on this planet anymore. And I turned to my bed, and um, I couldn't get out. I felt like everything that I touched, I was going to destroy. That my kids would be better off without me. My family would be better off without me. And it wasn't suicidal, but I was definitely at the point where I thought if I just didn't wake up the next morning, I would be okay with that. And I cried and I prayed, and I knew that life was supposed to be better than this. I had seen it. I had just had my dream life, 2 weeks ago, and it was all slipping away from me so quickly. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't have any close friends that I thought could understand the kind of pain that I was going through. And I was just sure that the last straw was going to be losing my husband, him taking my kids and finding somewhere else that would be safe for them. And I just sat in my bed and didn't know how to get out of it. It was part in my life.
So, was there a time where you, in this season, where you felt like things needed to change, or could you not just even imagine what the next step would be?
I was completely lost. I felt like really like the curtain had been pulled back. Like the one group of people that I had trusted got to know who I was at my core, and they had made the judgment that I was not okay to be in communication with, to be in community with, and all of the awful things that I had really told myself secretly for so many years felt validated in that moment. And I truly felt like next step really would be just if I could be in a place where I couldn't hurt anybody else anymore. And I just didn't have the courage to take myself out of this world at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Praise God for that. Good heavens.
Amen.
Yes. 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 Okay. So how long a time was this period of depression for you?
Uh, I would say probably the bedridden stage was about 2 weeks, and I I I got done what I could to make sure my kids stay alive, that they,
Sure.
went to school, they had food, but they also were very self-sufficient little farm hands, so they took
Of course.
very good care of themselves, and my husband recognized what was going on, and he,
Yeah.
bless his heart, such a precious man. He started bringing his relationships in and saying, "Here's a friend, and here's a friend, and here's something we can do," and he just did whatever he could to try and help me start to connect with people again.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and that was it was much appreciated, but it was kind of like I told him at the time, it felt like, in Finding Nemo, when he's taken from his dad and his community and his classmate, he put in the fish tank, and it's like that dentist tried to give him community, right? But that wasn't his community. He wanted to go home. And I told my husband, I really appreciate you doing this for me. And it's that, I mean, this is not my community. These are not my friends.
Right.
And right now, I don't know if I can ever create that again or if I even want to, because I don't know if the hurt is worth it again.
Absolutely. You'd put all your trust and your safety and security in this group of people.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine what that feels like to lose all of those people that you are doing life with on a regular basis. So, okay, so what happened that started the change out of this funk that you were in?
So my husband came home and he said, I've been invited to this workshop. And I went, okay. He signed both of us up. I thought it's a weekend away with my husband. This is something I can do. If nothing else, we'll sit next to each other, we'll hold hands. That it wasn't that kind of workshop. It was a personal development workshop. And we walked in Friday night and we were supposed to bring goals with us. And I really had never set a goal in my life. I probably came up with something. Um,
Sure.
and then what I realized on Friday night was that one of the questions they asked me was, what's keeping you from attaining your goal? And the thought that I had was, I don't like myself. And that is taking me out at the knees because I don't value myself enough to go after anything important. And I think at that moment, I started crying because that truth hit me hard. And I pretty much cried for the rest of the weekend. I mean, I did not enjoy this workshop for a couple of days. It was something that I chose to suffer through because the
Yeah.
things that I was learning about myself, the way that I talked to myself was becoming very evident to me. And I didn't like hearing that, these things that other people were saying to me, they hurt, but realizing that it was coming from me first was really, I think, something that amount of honesty that I got to sit with was really painful for me at first.
Oh,
Uh,
sure. Yeah.
and so it wasn't an easy weekend for me, especially at first by any means, but I had this miracle that occurred on Sunday morning where I started to really understand what it looked like I'd heard all my life things like, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is, or be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Like these are things that I knew. And
Yes.
then on Sunday morning, I actually got an understanding of how to do it. And I shifted my thinking. And the goal that I had chosen for that weekend was I just want to like myself. That seems like the biggest possible goal that I could ever imagine. I don't know that it would even be possible in my whole life to figure out how to do this. And on Sunday morning, I got an opportunity to shift my thinking. And by Sunday evening, I left that workshop with a deep knowledge that I not only loved myself, but I could really like myself from a space of compassion and empathy in a way that I never dreamed possible. And that was huge for me.
That's amazing. And I think a lot of people struggle with this idea of self-worth and self-love and giving herself compassion despite what has ever happened in our lives, or despite what we have done in our lives, where we have told ourselves this story that we are less than or we're not worthy. And what can you describe a little bit more about, like, what was it that where you had that shift to think, okay, I can do this and I am doing this and so forth?
Yeah, I think so. The first part is awareness because I
Mhm.
walked in, I wasn't even aware of really the contract that I had made with myself, where I told myself for years, I'm disposable, I'm wicked, I'm all of these things
Mm.
that had become my really what I decided that's who I am. And maybe I'm not the first person who gave those words life in my being, but I adopted them. And so the first step definitely was awareness. Who do I say that I am? No, not who do I tell Molly who I think I am, but in the depths of my soul.
Yes.
What are the beliefs that I have about myself? Because it's not just about what's up here, it's what's in my heart. So awareness was definitely the first step. And then the process of for me, what really supported me is if my daughter had told me some of the things that I had said that I had been through, if I could take it away from I did these things and see it from somebody else's perspective, I would have an incredible amount of compassion, right?
Yes.
What is
Yes.
keeps me from having that compassion for me?
Yes, for
Yes.
yourself. Yes.
And
Yes.
so really kind of taking myself out of the equation and saying, this is a person who has experienced this hurt or this trauma. And what do you say? What's the judgment you have on this person? What encouragement would you give to this person?
That's right.
And then being willing to say, okay, the old story was that I'm disposable, right? That's not a story that is moving me forward. That's a story that brought me into the middle of the country in with a 1-mile driveway so that nobody could get to me, right? That was the one that helped me build safety in my life,
Yes.
right? And ultimately kept me from connecting with people.
Kept you stuck.
So I did, and it felt like heaven to me to be in the middle of
Mhm.
nowhere. Like, that's the whole disconnect. I thought I was building safety and good things, and what I was actually doing was building an impenetrable wall.
Wall. Yes. Isolation. A form of isolation.
Absolutely. And so recognizing, okay, that's the old story. It's holding me back, but I made that story up. So if I'm going to be making up stories, maybe I should make up one that moves me forward instead of holding me back. And
Yes.
so in that, okay, what's a story I want to tell myself? This is the thing that happened. I'm not going to take the old story of disposable. Who am I? I'm a warrior. I am a s I started with survivor, but I don't like that word anymore because survivors really kind of bear battle wounds, and probably at the time, that was exactly who I was. I was still emerging from my battle with wounds, but I wanna go even one step further. I am whole and complete. I am passionate. I am loving. I am tender. I can make up whatever word I want, and I can say, "Okay, this is gonna be my new truth."
And claim
And
it. Claim it
um
as yours.
yes. And from that space, that old story that was trauma to me, that was alienating or isolating, now becomes something that I can actually use to connect with people.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
And it's a new contract that I have with myself around who I say that I am and who I'm choosing to show up as.
Yes. Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. So this all happened on this Sunday, or this process started on this Sunday of that professional development seminar your husband signed you up for.
Yes.
That is amazing. Okay, so following that weekend, what did it feel like going home that Sunday and waking up on that Monday? What did it feel like for you after being through multiple weeks of this deep depression? If you could describe that feeling, tell me what that felt like.
It was like the whole world had changed, but really it was just me that changed. Everybody else kept going on around like everything was normal. And I was truly seeing the whole world through different eyes. I was seeing more possibility. I was feeling more powerful. I was feeling healed in a way that I had never felt before. And it was just that whole like the embodiment of the world is my oyster, right? I've got so many things now that I can choose possibility around. And it was a beautiful feeling that first week.
Yes. It sounds liberating.
Absolutely.
That'd be a good way to describe it. It sounds very, very, very liberating. So, what happened as a result of this weekend and this shift? What changed in your life following this awareness and this reframe of this narrative that you have been telling yourself for probably decades?
Absolutely. Decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell
Um,
me. So, tell me what happened as a result at the post this weekend.
so I decided, I think that's probably where the addiction started coming in for personal development. I think good addiction, right? So I started becoming more and more aware of the thoughts that I was having and the impact that they had in my life, in my day to day. And I started on this journey of how do I change this? Now I've changed this little part. How do I change the next part? And I had a desire to connect with people like I hadn't since I was probably a teenager. It was almost a life-giving, you talked about liberation, absolutely liberation, but I almost felt like I had found this fountain of youth because I felt younger and I felt like desires that I had let die for a long time were starting to revive and come back to me and had all this energy to start doing other things.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was fantastic, and then a 2 by 4 hit, and as they do, I found how easy it is to go back to that old way of thinking, and my tools just kinda slipped away from me, and yeah, I realized, "Okay, this is a practice. This is not a one and done thing." So I get
Right.
to stay in this practice of continuing to use these tools, continuing to be with people who are going to help
Yes.
me figure out that this one weekend wasn't all there was, that I can keep being this powerful woman, and
Yes.
I'm going to get to choose it as I start on this journey that I'm at now because it really did create this new path in my life.
Yes.
Whereas where before I describe it as a path of decay. I was getting older and I was just kind of shrinking. My
Yep.
world had shrank and my body was decaying and it I just thought, "Listen, I'm getting older, it's okay." But being in a growth cycle, it's so different. It is such a different path, and
Yes.
getting to be on an upward climb, there are gonna be opportunities for me to address things that held me back before again and again.
Yes.
Um, and so for me, shifting the kinds of people that I was talking to was really huge. And it wasn't just about using the tools, it was about being around people who would remind me to use the tools and who would
Yeah.
listen to my victim story or my sob story and then say, "Okay, how long do you want to stick with that?" And let me be in it and then slap me out of it because I don't want to stay in it.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm dying to ask you, have you found a new community of people to do life with?
Absolutely. And I have many layers of communities that I'm playing with. And in the same personal development kind of field, there's one group that I just keep going back to over and over and over again because we set more goals, we set bigger goals, we set different goals, and then keep creating this more, better, different outcome in our lives. And it's how I got to the TEDx stage, which was
That's amazing.
huge for me to go from talking to 6 people on this planet to standing on a stage and talking to the entire planet.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, tell me, looking back now, what would you tell the version of you that was lying in that bed, feeling like you didn't want to keep on going?
I see it as such a necessary stage for where I was at. One of the things that I deal with on a regular basis is your feelings are not wrong. They're a
Correct.
result and a reflection of what your thinking is right now at this moment. And what your thinking is right now in this moment, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's your point A. And what do you want your point B to be? Like, where do you want to go? Because this is a beautiful example of your jumping board, right? It is the before picture.
That's
And
right.
it's okay. It is okay to be hurt. It is okay to be messy. It's okay to feel like you're at the bottom covered in mud because it's going to be a glorious redemption. And you're going to have an after picture that is going to inspire so many other people.
Yes. There's so much purpose in pain. There is purpose in the funk. And, what I have learned just talking to people on this podcast is that the funk that we've been in is very often the soil that our purpose and our next level identity are that they spring up from, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Soil is one way to put it because
yes,
some people call it manure.
well, that
It's
too. Or
fertilizer, right?
yes, it is. It is absolutely. Okay, for the listener who is in a depression right now and they don't see the way out, they're not sure what their next best step is. What would you encourage them with right now?
Start finding somebody. I think the biggest step that we can take when we're in depression, well, I'll come from mine. I felt alone. I felt like there was nobody on this planet who could possibly understand what it was that I was going through. And I think what it was is because the story that I've been telling myself for years didn't feel like it was in alignment with who I believe God put me on this planet to be. Right. And there was this war between this is who I think I am, and this is who I think everybody else thinks I am, and it's not good. But that's not what I think truly is true, and I don't know how to justify those 2 things.
Mm.
And so, I think ultimately, though, the more I'm willing to open up and share where it is that my hurts are, the more opportunities that I have to find people who have been in similar opportunities,
Yes.
and the less alone I feel. And haven't always been able to open up to people who were sympathetic. And that has, at times caused more hurt. And I think that can be something that causes a lot of fear. Oftentimes, I think it's easier to reach out to somebody who there isn't a connection with. So find somebody who maybe you don't know. It's an online community of people who maybe has survived something that you have survived, whether it's addiction or assault or whatever that is, that
Mhm.
story that has really hurt your heart. Find other survivors and find people who can speak life into the thing that feels like it's draining you of the life.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Isolation, we're not built for isolation.
No.
So finding and connecting to others, and especially now with online communities, surely you can find somebody who has walked in your shoes or can hold space for you
Mm.
in that season. Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. Hey, listeners, if you know somebody who's going through a season of depression, please forward this episode. It may help them take their next best step. It may help them figure out how to connect to somebody who can help them and encourage them along the way. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.